I'm Jakob Von Uexkull. I'm the founder and chair of the management board of the World Future Council, which is based in Germany with offices in different countries and works worldwide with policymakers. We provide capacity building and knowledge transfer to help policymakers find out about best policies already existing in other countries and which they can copy, and we help them to do that. So we work directly with members of parliament.
Okay, there's money out there, it seems. Governments are willing to, so they say, to put the money forward. How do you ensure, how does the whole process ensure that that money is available, that money is delivered, that money is promised?
Well, you know, we have many real challenges of governance, of technology, to solve this problem, but money, of course, is not a challenge. This is, we have this economic witch doctor, so when it suits them, suddenly trillions of dollars are created out of nowhere within weeks or within months to stabilize the banks. But when it comes to stabilize the climate, which of course on which we all depend, then suddenly they say, oh, you know, it's too expensive. And we have these promises, and they have to say we have to take away the money from somebody, we have to redirect money flows. And you know, that's all fine, but it's too slow and it's not going to be enough. We need to do just like we did to stabilize the banks, we need to create this new money. And you can do that, you know, electronically or printing money. This is not inflationary if you only do it against performance. You know, if the new money corresponds to funding new performance, new production of new goods and services, it's not inflationary. All it needs is that all this diverse, you know, government, civil society, everybody comes together and make sure that the climate lobby becomes as strong as the bank lobby, and then we can do it without having to wait, you know, years and years and years. We did a first study which we presented in Copenhagen on SDRs, you know, IMF special drawing rights, how they could be reformed to provide international money to fund the transition to renewable energy. And that's on our website, the World Future Council website. We're now looking also at how you can do this on the national level, because as we know, national governments are also creating vast amount of money to save banks, and of course we can do the same to save the climate. And we also then looked at the calculations where, for example, they tell us that, you know, renewable energies are still not competitive, you know, the market has to respond, but there is no market. You know, there is Pavan Sukhdev worked out about $1 trillion a year of subsidies to the business as usual economy, and so there is really no market there. So again, we need to sort of challenge this kind of thinking, and we need to look at, you know, if you really compare fossil fuels and renewables, you find, of course, that for fossil fuels you have huge exploration costs, you know, mining costs. You don't have that for renewables. The sun is there, especially in a country like this. You know, it's just there to be tapped. And then the distribution costs, of course, also much easier. You can have decentralized solar in many countries. And the environmental costs, of course, of renewables are minimal or non-existent, certainly, you know, when it comes to CO2 emissions, etc. But we have, the World Future Council, last year did a pioneering study for another vast cost. The cost of not using renewables, because of course, you know, the sun is free, but if we don't use the sun and the wind, and instead we burn valuable fossil fuel raw materials, we are conducting a massive destruction and waste of natural capital, because the sun of today you can't harness anymore tomorrow. You can harness tomorrow's sun, but the potential solar energy, the potential wind and other renewable energies which could have harnessed today have been lost forever. Instead, we burnt valuable fossil fuel raw materials, which of course have a value. You know, all sorts of petrochemical, even medical users, you know, future generations might say, why did you burn these? Why did you destroy these when you could have tapped, you know, the sun instead? And so we've done the first study on the monetary costs of not using renewables, and we found that this is, amounts to about between $3.2 and $3.4 trillion every year of natural capital destruction.
I mean, the so-called saviour of the banking system proved that the money is there one way or the other. If they want it, you know, it can be found. Who should be finding the money, creating the money to save the planet? Should it be the developed countries? Should it be the whole world? Or does it not really matter? Does it just come from a global fund of some sort?
Well, I think you're going to find that some countries, of course, can do it, but if they need foreign currency, there also has to be international program, and that's why we said there is a way to create an international money, which a number of countries then have, you know, they can use it as their reserves, they can convert it to dollars and yens and euros, for example. If an African country say, well, we need to import these wind generators, we need to import some parts from Japan or from the euros, it's no good just printing the money. We need access to such money, and that's why you have the International Monetary Fund, why it can create these special drawing rights. They can make them non-interest bearing, they can make them non-refundable. Basically, you can create debt-free new money, because money depends on trust. It doesn't depend on it being debt. On the contrary, I mean, this is a rather new invention to create almost all new money as debt. It also doesn't depend on gold being tucked away somewhere. Nobody goes and checks before they accept the money from you, whether there is some gold backing it. They accept it because they trust that they can spend it again. And so as long as you make sure that you don't just print money without any corresponding performance, there is no danger of inflation. We've seen that now. We've created trillions of money to save the banks, and there hasn't been any inflation. And in this case, we would of course not just put the money in the banks, we directly use it to fund the transition, to fund these sustainability programs, whether it's agriculture, renewable energy, etc. So you can do it on the national level, and we are going to have to do it anyway, because we have this huge debt overhang still in the economy. And when you sort of deleverage, when you cut debts, of course you also cut assets, because they are part of the same coin. Many people don't understand that. So you then need to inject new money, otherwise you're going to have a global recession. And of course it doesn't make sense just to inject this new money to do anything with, because we have this huge task now of building, moving to sustainability, or as we prefer to call it, regenerating the world, regenerating our cities. And that's of course what we should create money for. And then we would solve two problems. We'd solve the problem of massive unemployment, while there is so much to do. We'd stop the recession, and we'd also make sure that we are changing course and we're finally on the right track to saving the climate and stabilizing our environment.
What's the disincentive? Why we've proved that the money can be found, should be created. What is stopping it? We all gain, we all benefit. The world benefits from creating this fund and spending it on stabilizing our planet. Why is it not happening?
I know it's purely like a sort of thinking. It's hard to think outside the box. In the Middle Ages, if you wanted to debate with the church power, you can only do it in Latin. And today, most people, including most politicians, don't really understand money creation. And this is, the banks like that very much, so they can continue, creating the money. And we then have to come in and save them. But it is really, as I said, a problem that there is a certain band of, Anglo-Saxon economists who advise our leaders, and they listen to them, and they've told, oh no, if you do this, it'll cause mass inflation. And we have proved that this is not the case. It's quite clearly, historically, the cause of mass inflation was just, printing money, but not against performance. These were, there's a lot of misinformation going about there, which we are trying to clarify. And we've done a study, as I said, on the special drawing rights, which is on our website. We're now looking at the national aspect. But you're right, it is unbelievable that, we are really, about to destroy, to destabilize our climate because we claim there is no money. But as we saw when we saved the banks, this money, and more than enough money, could be created within months. We don't have to wait 10, 20 years. Of course, this is nothing against taxing air travel, taxing the Tobin tax on financial transactions. That's all fine, but that's too little and too slow if we don't combine it with just making sure that we have the money there. So then we can move to the real problems, governance, technology, etc.